This symbol represents the matron saint of southern Argola. You may have noticed that some vehicles and flags have the same symbol. They belong to the Deimos division. They worship her. She has another name, the Blood Queen.
A menacing spire looms over the trees of Sinedra Forest. A screaming visage strikes terror above Maristan. A pile of skeletal remains, a testament to ruthless hate. This is the story of Harvor Raveta, better known to history as the Blood Queen. Harvor Raveta casts a long, cruel shadow, an example of Palamist tradition attacking Sabinian reformists in a most inhuman manner. She rose to power as Queen of Hadea in the 930s AD, and her rule ended abruptly in 950. Her actions created the Fifth Limbic Invasion, the largest on record, and her memory lives forever in infamy. A tyrant, a sadist, many accusations have been leveled at Harvor Raveta, but she was also a creature of circumstance. She's far from blameless, but external events greatly shaped Raveta into the uncompromising genocidal leader she would ultimately become. Her story begins the generation before, with her uncle Thomas Raveta. Thomas was a young man in the 860s when the charismatic Francis Aldrich preached heretical thought against the god Setherus and established his hedonistic cult of Tiar. The cult, from their bastion in the Plains of Mist, revered the twin serpent and spread like a disease through Palamist and Sabinian communities alike. Traditionalists fought back, founding the Inquisition of Palam, which ultimately rooted out the source of this insidious cult. Thomas was squire to one of the Talons, the 10 generals of the Inquisition, and participated in the Butchery of the Fallen, a massacre of cultists by Inquisition forces. Thomas Raveta experienced firsthand the debauchery of the cult, how wayward thought could bring about horror and death. He also fought Hollow Walkers in the ensuing Fourth Limbic Invasion, the creatures of nightmare that plagued Hadea for centuries. Thomas learned harsh lessons, and he would pass them on to a young Harvor. Lady Harvor was born to House Raveta near current-day Maristan in the western province of Argola. This region was, as it is now, a fortress of traditional Palamist culture. Her parents died when she was an infant, so Harvor was watched by her uncle Thomas, now a grizzled veteran. The old war hero raised her the only way he knew how, as a son, teaching her the art of the sword, strategy and leadership, hunting, and above all, Palamist religion. Harvor's old storybook is an item revealing the extent of indoctrination in traditionalist communities. Its tales have somber, penitent tones and speak of the evil of heterodox thought. Young Harvor learned Sabinians were to be despised and not to be trusted. She matured in the same period that Queen Viga and King Marcus, the monarchs of Hadea, died and left as successor the boy king Garland. Garland was raised by advisors and courtiers as a Sabinian reformist, which angered the traditionalist clergy, who felt their power threatened. They searched the country over for a Palamist lady as queen to counterbalance Garland. As member of an esteemed house rooted in tradition, Harvor Raveta quickly became the clergy's choice. For years, they and Thomas groomed Raveta for her future position. Though her adult character hardened, young Harvor was more open-minded and felt suffocated by her uncle and the clergy's scrutiny. In 2 separate transcriptions around Maristan, we can hear the girl's thoughts. "I can bear it no longer. I long only to flee. My uncle will never release me from his grasp. His mind is fevered with purpose, his heart consumed by vengeance. Why must I be the vessel of his wrath? Here, they never find me. When I lie among the whispering grass, the world fades, and for a fleeting breath, I am free." Nonetheless, constant whispers of hateful rhetoric towards Sabinians and a reweaving of facts transformed Harvor into a zealot of Palamist ways. Time passed, Raveta and Garland were betrothed, and eventually Hadea had a new royal couple, one Sabinian, the other Palamist. For years, the seeds of resentment had been sown against reformists in Argola. The duchy had been decimated by limbic invasions, and Queen Viga had arrested royal funds that trickled to the west, instead focusing on restoring her own reformist lands. Argolla, as consequence, fell to poverty and disrepair. Traditionalist leaders were quick to blame Sabinians and stirred discontent among the masses. Prayers to Cetharus were answered when Harvor Raveta, one of Argolla's own, rose to power. Not only did the flow of funds return, but Raveta placed her uncle Thomas as Lord Commander of the military, a title normally reserved for the king, and conscription into armed service increased. Hate was given a sword. Sabinians in court looked on with unease, but to their dismay, King Garland acquiesced to all of Harvor's wishes. He had fallen in love with his queen, and Garland's strong passions offered themselves to manipulations by a vindictive Raveta. Sabinians had been outmaneuvered. The nail in the coffin came with a bloody coup. Under cover of darkness, heavily armed traditionalists infiltrated the capital, stormed the court, seized and slaughtered every reformist noble, courtier, and advisor. King Garland's love for Harvor spared his life, and in a sham ceremony, the king renounced his Sabinian religion and converted to Palimism. In a stroke, the traditionalists claimed the crown's central authority, which paved the way for the second phase of retribution, conquest. The time in which Western Hadea had been arming troops saw a commensurate decrease in military armament in the east. Sabinian reformists had been lulled into a false sense of security, believing that so long as Garland was king, the Sabinian cause would be central to his rule. As love had blinded the king, faith in Garland had blinded his followers. By the time he proved himself to be an ineffectual leader, prone to his wife's manipulations, it was too late. For the duchies of Asteria and Jehania were under attack. Harvor Raveta's hands were stained red by the coup, but it was in the vengeful war against Sabinians that she earned her nickname, the Blood Queen. Traditionalist troops first washed over Jehania in a tide of hate. Though the duchy surrendered quickly, weeks of slaughter ensued. Queen Raveta soon made clear this was a war not for riches or land, but for extermination. The symbol of genocide rose towards the sky. Its shadow blotted out the sun, and its halls echoed with wails of the imprisoned, the Arcus Spire. In current-day Hadea, only one spire stands, but it's believed several of these structures once dotted the realm in Queen Raveta's time. For too long, we have suffered those whose sinful hearts begat calamity after calamity. Let this grand edifice stand as a testament to our righteousness, a shining beacon in the sea of immorality, a reminder to all that none escape his gaze. These structures were domains of incomprehensible suffering. Sabinians by the thousands were taken to internment prisons such as Fort Mott in Senedra Forest, where they were tortured and starved for decades. They dream still of dwelling among us, of sharing harvest, customs, and tongue, but they shall not. These steps, slick with their lifeblood, lead upwards to their downfall. This is their end and their death. After their spirits had broken, they were brought like chattel in droves to the Arcus Spire, where their pain continued. As we see in the ruins, hundreds didn't survive even this first stage, but those who did were forced higher. The spire's upper levels housed dungeons of iniquity. The staircases of ascent were lined with sharp blades to flay legs. Crude torture devices and cages hung prisoners in suspended anguish. The worst came at the spire's peak. Those Sabinians that survived were systematically dragged to a bridge suspended over the hollow center of the structure, then pushed off the ledge where they plummeted hundreds of feet to their death. This time loop at Arcus Spire shows such executions in action, and the pit of bones a morbid monument to the depths of Harvor Raveta's depravity. A painting within the Senedra Forest illustrates these executions and reads, "Once swallowed into the depths of the twin-headed serpent Tiar, the wretched Sabinian vermin shall be excreted unto the flaying pits of the accursed Himalara fields." Reformist suffering brought the Blood Queen great pleasure, and Harvor began a ritual of collecting a bone from each of her victims to decorate her dress, adorn her crown, or as jewelry. She became a specter and symbol of Sabinian terror. Again, the sadistic glee in which Palamists carried out their genocide can be heard in the words of this prison warden. "The spire sings tonight. Its halls echo with the wails of the damned, and I, their conductor, wield the baton of justice most exquisite. What a righteous duty it is to cleanse the land of this vermin." Jehanians were exterminated, but Asteria resisted Queen Raveta's forces. Their legions of soldiers were veterans of limbic invasions in previous wars and fought tooth and claw for their own existence. Palamist forces pushed to Asteria's capital and invested in a siege. In the 11th hour, the remnants of Sabinian resistance sallied forth to give battle, and this coincided with catastrophe. The waves of passion and emotion, the inhumanity perpetrated in this genocidal conflict, awakened the eye of God beneath Mount Obek, and it activated. In the spires and prisons, on the battlefields and internment camps, thousands of time loops trapped the terrors of the Blood Queen's rule in eternal suffering as swarms of limbic entities poured forth in the 5th limbic invasion. It's a testament to the Blood Queen's evil that her actions brought about the largest invasion in Hadean history. Hollow Walkers slaughtered Palamists and Sabinian indiscriminately. The final moments of Harvor's conquest were thrown in disarray as battle lines folded to alien aggression. The Order of the Eye, which had gone silent for generations, saw in the 5th Limbic invasion an opportunity to wipe Hadea's slate clean. But old institutions first had to be dismantled. They and the Full Guard waited in shadow, allowing limbic entities to rampage unresisted against helpless traditionalists and reformists. Queen Raveta saw all she'd worked so hard to achieve slip through her fingers. Her retribution was incomplete, her own provinces now the target of limbic attack. And though she would never realize the irony, Harvor's own actions created this spectacular demise. Hadea burned. Many spires were destroyed, cities besieged, and the queen defeated. The time arrived for the Order's intervention. When the Order of the Eye resurfaced, they moved quickly and decisively. Legions of Full Guard appeared to combat limbic entities and close the time loops that emerged across Hadea, while they mobilized their spies to target Hadean leadership. Nobles disappeared. Advisors were found in alleys with their throats cut. Order assassins massacred most of the Hadean nobility, creating a power vacuum of authority that the Order would itself fill. Not even the Queen and King were spared. In 950 AD, Harvor Raveta, the Blood Queen of Hadea, and her faithful husband Garland were assassinated by the Eye's agents. With the royal deaths, the Order seized the reins of power and placed on the throne two of their own members. To stop the 5th Limbic invasion and thwart further incursions, the Order's new government enacted a series of reforms that began with the Week of Peace, a holiday coinciding with the Eye of God's activation cycle that ensured, rather than violence, feelings of love and community spread to placate the Eye. Loyalists to the Queen's cause gathered Harvor's body and brought it back to her home of Maristan, where they interred Raveta in a secret location. The Queen's sword was placed alongside her body, the key and symbol of her greatest achievement, the Arcus Spire. Here rests Harvor Raveta, the unyielding divinity, keeper of purity. Let her wisdom echo through eternity. Long may her manifold deeds inspire us to greatness. The spire shall remain forever open to Our Lady Raveta and her instrument of vengeance here interred. Statues of her raging fury were erected throughout Argala in homage to her memory, and Raveta's screaming visage was a reminder to Palamists of their supposed superiority. After the Order of the Eye gained control of Hadea, they enacted a program of sweeping censorship, and as years slipped into centuries, the limbic creatures, the time loop invasions, and the atrocities perpetrated by the Blood Queen faded into obscurity. Relics of Harvor Raveta's terrible reign still stood, but the people of Hadea knew not their bloody significance. The Order successfully snuffed information. Only when Remy Latam arrives in Hadea and travels to Arcus Spire, location of the Keystone of Terror, is Raveta's genocide rediscovered. Corpses litter the floors, torture cells still hold the remains of poor victims, and the great mound of bones, a monument to the most ruthless, bloody queen in the country's history. A woman often misunderstood, but who no doubt earned her moniker. Thanks so much for watching this video on the story of the Blood Queen Harvor Raveta in Hell Is Us. Let me know your thoughts on Raveta, the 5th Limbic invasion, and what characters or events you'd like to learn more about in the comments below. And if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, be sure to subscribe where content is uploaded frequently. I want to take a moment to thank all of my patrons over on Patreon. Their support really helps the channel grow and improve. If you'd like to become a lore luminary for access to me, written scripts, and early video drops, head to patreon.com/thelorebrarians to learn more. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.